Oh,
All right, Hannah. So I would love to start with, how did you find Food Freedom, and what made you say, all right, I'm going to reach out. I want to learn more. I want to talk to them.
so I found you guys because I've been following you forever, back in the public supermarket days and the whole transition to find Food Freedom. And I was approached by my family and people that I love that like I might need some additional help with dealing with food things that I wasn't either aware of or wasn't really ready to recognize that I was aware of. And just from following the page, I was like, this seems like a good place to start. And even though I reached out with like, I'm addicted to food, like I need a meal plan, I need everything, 2 years later we're here. And now I am just so in so much like a better place with food and my relationship with my body. And it's like so close, like full-fledged food freedom. And it's just been an awesome journey.
It has been a really awesome journey for me to just even walk alongside you. I've absolutely loved it. So happy that you reached out. So let's talk about your relationship with food. I want you to try to describe, what was your relationship with food like on day one when you reached out, and how would you describe it then, and how would you describe it now?
Then I was just graduated from school and trying to be a professional athlete and trying to fit this like athletic but skinny, but not too strong, but not too bulky. Can't eat too much, can't eat too little, and trying to like portion everything. Like I was doing everything on a schedule, and everything that I did had a time, like when I was allowed to eat, what I was allowed to eat, and things that were healthy, things that weren't healthy. And I was, even though I was eating throughout the day, it was very like portioned, very timed, very specific. And I'd be at practice and I'd just be daydreaming about like, oh my God, I can't wait for dinner, and like doom scrolling on Pinterest and looking at all these recipes and like, oh, this looks so good, but I can't have that. Or, like, can I use less oil? Can I use water? Like, can I substitute the sugar for like plants? Like, what can I? Everything was a substitute. And I was just constantly thinking about food. Like even when I went to bed, I was looking forward to breakfast the next morning. And then at breakfast, I was looking forward to lunch. And at lunch, I was like, thank God dinner is coming. Like I cannot wait. And then, a few times like a month or every couple of weeks, like just binging on food and feeling like so guilty and like, how could you do this? You're a horrible person. My food was incredibly tied to guilt and shame, and like if it was a good day or a bad day depending on what I ate. And now I really don't think that it could be any more opposite from that. Like I don't feel guilty for eating. Like mac and cheese is one of the biggest ones that I used to feel guilty for eating. And now like I went through my stages of like, thank God I get to eat this all the time. And now like I know that I always have it accessible, and I don't feel any guilt. I don't feel any shame for eating it. I just simply enjoy it. And I don't plan my days around when I'm going to eat. Like, of course, if I'm going out, like, okay, when am I getting lunch? When do I have time to go get lunch? But I'm not saying like, okay, I have to be home cooking my meal with my oil substitute at like 11:45 p.m. or a.m. And it's much more of like a free flowing kind of, some might call it like food free to me thoughts of like, I can eat whenever I want, and I'm not a bad person for eating X, Y, and Z, or for eating past 7 o'clock. And it's so much, it clears up so much mental space now. And if you told me 2 years ago I would ever think this way, I would have said you're freaking crazy. but now like, oops, sorry, but now like knowing that I do have that space and that awareness of myself to trust myself. It's crazy, but it's awesome.
It is crazy and awesome all at the same time. And I feel like your relationship with food has definitely just totally taken a 180. It's gone from this place of restriction to this place of like peace and contentment and freedom. And it's been so beautiful to watch. Is there any aha moment or anything that you want to share that like has really stood out to you during this journey that you're like, I didn't really think like this was gonna overlap with this, but like this really stood out to me and has been a huge part of my journey as well. I know it's a very broad question, but
I think there's been a lot of like aha moments with like friends that were around for like the worst of it and for the best of it, and kind of talking them through like, maybe like their own struggles, and realizing like how I speak to my friends, and how if they're like, oh, I feel like, oh, I shouldn't be eating this, and I immediately I'm like, oh, tell me why you shouldn't, why you think you should eat this. And it's the mentality of how I talk to my friends that I've noticed, like, you always told me like talk to yourself as you would your best friend, and now I notice that I do that without having to think about it, and it's just kind of like on command. I'm so much kinder to myself, and I speak to myself the same way that I would speak to a friend that's having like a diet culture conversation with himself or herself. Now I have that conversation with myself of like being actually kind, and not associating the guilt or the shame with food. And I think the biggest aha moment was like when you asked me about like my wins or my losses, and now it's like all wins. Like now I'm like, oh, I don't have any losses to share. Like I only have positive thoughts. And like we talked about, like not every day is going to be an easy day with eating and body image, but now I have the tools to make it easier on myself and to be kind to myself. And I don't think about food 24/7, and I have so much mental space to think about other things. And even the other day I was like, it's kind of quiet up here. Like I wonder why. I was like, oh, I'm not worried about what I'm having for dinner or what I'm having for lunch tomorrow, or if there's going to be too much oil in it and X, Y, and Z. Like now I have time to think about other things and like enjoy the weather and just the little things that you forget that you do enjoy. Now there's so much more room to enjoy everything.
oh, I love that so much. So much more self-compassion, self-respect, and like you said, just being your own best friend.
Yeah.
And want to add, you never had losses, Hannah. They're obstacles, right? So we had wins and obstacles.
Wins and obstacles, yes.
Never have losses. Every experience is an experience to learn from yourself. And that's exactly
Definitely.
what you've done this entire time.
Yeah.
Last question here, easy one. Would you recommend Find Food Freedom to a friend, and why?
1,000,000,000%, absolutely. Just with how accessible you've been and always willing to help at any time of the day, and the resources that are sent, and the journals, and I don't want to call them assignments because they're not assignments, but like the work that is given, and how far, I mean, honestly, like again, if you told me 2 years ago I'd be okay with like having a piece of cake for dessert, I would have said you are absolutely fucking crazy. And now like I get to enjoy these. Like my mom's birthday was last week, and like I made a cake from a box that didn't have any substitutes in it, and then I ate it, and it was all like, if you would have told me that I would have allowed myself to even do that and like share these moments with my family, those are also some of the things that are like aha moments, like just the enjoyable moments of going out to dinner and lunches and drinks with friends, and like actually allowing yourself to be present and enjoying those things. That those are memories, and those, I'm so happy that I'm a part of those again. But just that, like you and your people have allowed me to get to this point. I could have never done it on my own, and there's nobody else that I would have rather had on this journey with me than you and your team. And now I'm re-enjoying life again, and it's fantastic.